пожалуйста, потому что сейчас без камеры останется. Ладно. Который...
Они нас бы убивали! Подрос, ебано! Вы же Россия! Ну вы же люди! Ну вызовите скорую!
Где медики?
Вон сзади бегу!
Сюда! Сюда! Быстрее! Сюда! Быстрее! Сюда! А это не украинец! А это кто не украинец? Толпами сталкиваться! Да успокойтесь!
Вы там не нужны, не снимайте, пожалуйста, потому что сейчас без камеры останется. Ладно.
In the streets every day. The number 50 is certainly too few. They're still finding bodies. Ukraine is splitting apart down the middle because Ukraine is not one country, contrary to what the American media, which speaks about the Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. Historically, ethnically, religiously, culturally, politically, economically, it's two countries. One half wants to stay close to Russia, the other wants to go west. We now have reliable reports that the anti-government forces in the streets, and there's some very nasty people among them, are seizing weapons in western Ukrainian military bases. So we have clearly the possibility of a civil war. And the longer-term outcome may be, and I want to emphasize this because nobody in the United States seems to want to pay attention to it, the outcome may be the construction, the emergence of a new Cold War divide between West and East, not this time, as it was for our generation, in faraway Berlin, but right on the borders of Russia, right through the heart of Slavic civilization. And if that happens, if that's the new Cold War divide, it's permanent instability and permanent potential for real war for decades to come. That's what's at stake. One last point. Also something that nobody in this country wants to talk about. The Western authorities, who bear some responsibility for what's happened, and who therefore also have blood on their hands, are taking no responsibility. They're uttering utterly banal statements which, because of their vacuous nature, are encouraging and rationalizing the people in Ukraine who are throwing Molotov cocktails, now have weapons, are shooting at police. We wouldn't permit that in any Western capital, no matter how righteous the cause. But it's being condoned by the European Union and Washington as events unfold.
And when you say
in the streets every day, the number 50 is certainly too few. They're still finding bodies. Ukraine is splitting apart down the middle because Ukraine is not one country, contrary to what the American media, which speaks about the Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. Historically, ethnically, religiously, culturally, politically, economically, it's two countries. One half wants to stay close to Russia, the other wants to go west. We now have reliable reports that the anti-government forces in the streets, and there's some very nasty people among them, are seizing weapons in western Ukrainian military bases. So we have clearly the possibility of a civil war. And the longer-term outcome may be, and I want to emphasize this because nobody in the United States seems to want to pay attention to it, the outcome may be the construction, the emergence of a new Cold War divide between West and East, not this time, as it was for our generation, in faraway Berlin, but right on the borders of Russia, right through the heart of Slavic civilization. And if that happens, if that's the new Cold War divide, it's permanent instability and permanent potential for real war for decades to come. That's what's at stake. One last point. Also something that nobody in this country wants to talk about. The Western authorities, who bear some responsibility for what's happened, and who therefore also have blood on their hands, are taking no responsibility. They're uttering utterly banal statements which, because of their vacuous nature, are encouraging and rationalizing the people in Ukraine who are throwing Molotov cocktails, now have weapons, are shooting at police. We wouldn't permit that in any Western capital, no matter how righteous the cause. But it's being condoned by the European Union and Washington.
All their forces, because of this truce agreement that's been signed with the opposition and the government. So this is the front door to the Ukrainian parliament, the Rada, and instead of police out the front, we've got Euromaidan protesters. Inside the building there's a session with the MPs and they're talking about putting through a law to impeach the president of this country.
Але є момент, не можна допустити і не можна забути, а що буде далі. Саме з Дніпропетровщини ми вважаємо, із серця України треба почати похід на схід України для її об'єднання.
All their forces, because of this truce agreement that's been signed with the opposition and the government. So this is the front door to the Ukrainian parliament, the Rada, and instead of police out the front, we've got Euromaidan protesters. Inside the building there's a session with the MPs and they're talking about putting through a law to impeach the president of this country.
Але є момент, не можна допустити і не можна забути, а що буде далі. Саме з Дніпропетровщини ми вважаємо, із серця України треба почати похід на схід України для її об'єднання.
All their forces, because of this truce agreement that's been signed with the opposition and the government. So this is the front door to the Ukrainian parliament, the Rada, and instead of police out the front, we've got Euromaidan protesters. Inside the building there's a session with the MPs and they're talking about putting through a law to impeach the president of this country.
Але є момент, не можна допустити і не можна забути, а що буде далі. Саме з Дніпропетровщини ми вважаємо, із серця України треба почати похід на схід України для її об'єднання.
All their forces, because of this truce agreement that's been signed with the opposition and the government. So this is the front door to the Ukrainian parliament, the Rada, and instead of police out the front, we've got Euromaidan protesters. Inside the building there's a session with the MPs and they're talking about putting through a law to impeach the president of this country.
Але є момент, не можна допустити і не можна забути, а що буде далі. Саме з Дніпропетровщини ми вважаємо, із серця України треба почати похід на схід України для її об'єднання.
All their forces, because of this truce agreement that's been signed with the opposition and the government. So this is the
Okay, everybody, what's going on, okay? I'm starting this off to see and test and get my kind of setup here going. Eventually, I want it to be a lot more glamorous of some type. But as of right now, this is going to be a good test, a really good test. Right now, I'm streaming, simulcasting. Right now on YouTube and on Facebook Live, and I plan to get on many other live streams as well here pretty soon. Everything that you see here is going to be temporary, but I'm going to make sure it lasts. Right now, I'm not even centered, whatever. But bear with me. Allow me to test these things out. I'm going to try to throw some topics at you. One of my live streams cut itself off. I don't know why. It's kind of crazy, but it actually encodes your words as you're talking. But I think it might have actually looked at my title and interrupted my stream. But I restarted it, you know, because I really want to get this going and try this out. But eventually, I'm going to get more things here going. Let me see what I got going on here right now. Right now, that's too many wrong things pulling up. I didn't set up correctly. So I'm gonna kind of tell you what I'm doing here. The name of this is gonna be called Unpropaganda TV, Unprop TV, UPTV. That's gonna be the name of the channel. You're mostly gonna see UPTV news on YouTube. Eventually I'll have my logo and everything else set up here. I think I keep accidentally changing the angle of the camera because the USB cable is short. Hold on. Okay, things happen, you know what I mean? Unpropaganda TV. There's a lot of, I mean, to be honest, we are the biggest propagandized country in the world. We just don't even know it. And a lot of people say that. That's a big saying in other communities, but a lot of us are stuck on the same news streams and the same outlets, and we never veer off. We never check or fact check. And when we think we're fact checking, our fact checking is really maybe a quick Google search or maybe just asking people around or something. You're not really fact checking like you should, or you're not really looking into issues like you should, or you just need to choose the right people to go with. If you come across a particular news station that's giving you some kind of propagandist view, maybe you don't know it first, understandably so. Like, you're gonna sometimes run into situations. Let me just make sure, I guess I am being heard. You're gonna sometimes run into situations where you don't know if what's being fed to you is the truth. This is how I tell people that like the news works in manipulating you. They give you a whole lot of truth. You know, it's true that it's 88 degrees tomorrow. It's true that such and such shot whoever on 23rd Street. It's true that somebody was called to some residence for a domestic disturbance. But then they'll throw in some quick propaganda. You wouldn't know it's propaganda. They might say something about Ukraine. They might say something about Putin. They might say something about Yemen. They might throw something about North Korea. They might just explain a whole bunch of stuff in a word salad. Big thing that's going around right now. But they might just explain a whole bunch of stuff and not even really tell you or explain to you what they just said. Like, if you know the history behind what they're telling you, then you can decipher what they're saying. Otherwise, it's just, you're gonna take away the particular words that resonate with you. And typically those are the ones that are propagandist type of things. Like, they might say, they may not tell you that Putin is gonna do nuclear war or something, but they're gonna say like, Putin advises his staff of nuclear advisors to be ready just in case. Or, and you can't fact check that. Like, I mean, is there a way that you can find any clip, any document, any video, anything, even Putin himself, saying that himself? No. So it's really kind of hard. So you got to just kind of take that and just listen to it and just kind of be like, whatever. You got to learn how to take things in, but don't always internalize them and act on them without proper context or without researching to find the proper context. So I'm gonna pull up a video here, try this out, and we're gonna kind of go through some video clips that I pulled myself. So what happened, again, I done made the camera move again. 1 second. Okay, so before I get into these clips, let me just tell you all I had to do to figure out what was going on in Ukraine, okay? I do realize that not everybody is like some kind of internet sleuther like I may be, you know, and I've been doing this for years. I've watched countless amounts of documentaries, news reports, independent accounts, interviews from different countries, different wars, different ages, different periods, different histories, ancient history, current history, whatever the hell, okay? I've deep dived through it all, and I'm still doing some actually to this day. But whenever I want to learn about a particular topic, it's really not hard for me to figure it out. And this is going to be my little thing that I give to you all. Make sure I'm still straight. This is going to be the thing that I give to you all if you're trying to figure something out. Okay, whatever the situation is, let's say right now, okay, I haven't particularly looked up the things that are going on in Yemen right now. Make sure I'm not too loud. I haven't particularly looked up, okay, no, I'm straight. I haven't particularly looked up the things that are going on in Yemen right now, okay? But Yemen, I keep hearing about it. You know, lots of refugees, lots of people being, you know, killed and things of that nature. But sometimes I hear things and I let it just slide past, but eventually I'm gonna look into it. And so all you want to do in many cases is to have you a few YouTube and Google search keyword phrases that you search, okay? Easy. Yemen history, Yemen documentary, Yemen war, and maybe a couple of others. You just do a few of those things right there, and you look for things that last longer than 5-10 minutes, okay? All this whole, you know, I hope I'm still streaming on both. Let me just double check the YouTubes. Okay, I think I'm straight. All of this looking at quick little history things, and I know y'all not looking at the shit that I'm looking at because the shit that I'm looking at has very low view counts around the world. Videos been out 7, 8, 9, 10 years. You know what I'm saying? So if you really wanted to see this information, you would look at it. You might find a Ukraine history, or I'm sorry, let me pull it back to the Yemen. You might find you a Yemen documentary or Yemen history. And, you know, it might last you 5 minutes. And then you see another one that lasts 1 hour and 29 minutes. And you're going to completely pass that 1 hour and 29 minutes. You need to watch that. You need to watch it and probably watch it several times because if it's your first time really getting into some information, really getting into documentaries, what you want to do is watch it a couple of times. A lot of things are going to be thrown at you. But you want to watch at least two different types of documentaries. I try to watch as many as I can. I try to also find, before I get to that. But you want to find as many of them as you can, but for the most part, you want to at least watch two. You want to watch it from two viewpoints. You always have these videos, and it's all made by a human being. Some documentarian out there. Might be independent, might be funded by some corporations, might be there for propaganda, might be there to try to help. Who knows, okay? But what you might find is you want to look at it from two different viewpoints. You find you a title. One title that says something great. It says Yemen and the amazing lands and economy for 1 hour and 29 minutes. Okay, you'll be able to take a look at that. That's going to give you a little background history about Yemen, maybe from an independent viewpoint from somebody that visited there, that, you know, kind of traveled about the ways of the people or some shit. And you also look for one that's bad. Yemen, a war-torn country with cannibalism or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Who knows? But basically what you do is you watch them both. That could be a propagandist documentary, or that could be the truth, and the good one might be the propaganda. It's up for you to decipher. A lot of times you'll watch those two, and then you'll watch a third. The third to try to be a little bit of a mediator, to try to see what you can find different, okay? I'm about to get off my little high horse and get onto some of these videos, but I just wanted to kind of go over some things. Another thing I try to do is look for videos from the viewpoint of the person that they're talking about, or the country, or the leader. Meaning, can I find interviews with Putin and of him giving me words? The only problem with Putin is he talks no English at all, damn near. So you got to trust who's being the translator. You know what I mean? And I don't always trust the translators. You could sometimes put up the Google Translate on your phone, but then they'll start talking over it so it doesn't really pick it up all the way. But sometimes you'll find other people, like when I was researching like other leaders like Hugo Chavez. He didn't really have a whole lot of, he didn't speak a whole lot of English, but sometimes he could. But he had enough to where you can get enough interviews in with him to know he was actually talking about whatever he was talking about. So always try to look up things from the viewpoints of the people that they're actually talking about. So let's get into one of these clips. And I didn't get it all organized right, but you know, we're just gonna go one by one on the clips. This might last a little long. My goal is to kind of go over some information and allow people to just kind of call chat in with the Zoom link, and they can just kind of tell me how they feeling about the topic. They can talk shit. I don't really give a damn, okay? I'm just here to throw some information out there. We're gonna see what this first video. So actually we're gonna do the first video that we had going in the opening. Let me pull that up.
Вы там не нужны, не снимайте, пожалуйста, потому что сейчас без камеры останетесь. Ладно. Который горит.
Let's start that over. Bow. Okay. as if it just was magic, you know? All right, so let's look at the clip.
Вы там не нужны, не снимайте, пожалуйста, потому что сейчас без камеры останетесь. Ладно. Который горит.
Они нас бы убивали! Подрос, ебаный! Уезжай в Россию, потому что люди, ну вызовите скорую!
I don't know if you know what you're seeing here. So let me kind of explain.
Сюда, быстрее, сюда! А это не украинец. А это кто не украинец? Толпами сталкивают наркотиками.
All for one, all for all, one for all. If there anyone here not ready to use their fist, you're not needed. You better stop filming or you're going to have that camera broken. Take it away. They run towards a group of people. A couple of Russians beat the shit out of a Russian right there. This is 7 years ago. I want to say this is in Kiev, in the Ukraine. They just beat another Russian up in the street random. So imagine this. Imagine our protest.
Они нас бы убивали! Подрос, ебаный! Уезжай в Россию, потому что
There's
люди,
another
ну
Russian on the
вызовите
ground,
скорую!
bloody. This was like the beginning, in 2007. And this is just one of the protests and riots.
Сюда, быстрее, сюда! А это не Украина. А это не Украина.
Okay, so what were you seeing there? What you were seeing was the people of Ukraine, the Ukrainian people. Are they just Ukrainian people? Technically, they are. Let me just pull this up real quick. Technically, they are just a 10% kind of a or so extremist group of white nationalists, neo-Nazis, okay? The neo-Nazis were going around starting rallies. We've all seen neo-Nazis, KKKs, and others starting rallies in many of the cities here in the United States. I mean, it happens all the time. A lot of times, it's just a small group. Even during certain like rallies during the BLM days, there were several more groups that had kind of popped up. But we saw several rallies kind of pop off. I mean, you see rallies all the time from them, and they might just be out there talking about, they'll be talking about Jews, they be talking about niggers, they say all the same shit, to be honest. They be out there, one race, all that shit, and they have the cops behind them. And I mean, it's their right to protest and freedom of speech, right? Imagine that same amount of people, those same group of people becoming 10% of a 60, 70, 80% stake of people within the country, and they start protesting, but they know what they're doing. They're wanting to protest for a change in government, for a shift. And so they start beating up Russians, right? Typically, nobody's gonna just stand for that. In many cases, oh, that's the wrong one. In many cases, you're not going to stand for that. In many cases, you're going to, the laws in that town are going to stop people from going too far whenever they're protesting. Yeah, don't get me wrong. There were some things that went too far during the BLM days with the protest. A lot of things went wrong during their time. But typically, it's like you can't stop everything, but you can clean up, whereas they're not stopping it. They're not cleaning up in the Ukraine. They're allowing those KKKs, those same white nationalists, to run free, but also beat up people. Also start throwing Molotov cocktails at state capitol buildings and or in the vicinity of state capitol buildings. And then eventually they stormed the state capitol building. We're going to get to that. But you wouldn't want these people, one, to continue their reign of terror around your country, around your city, first of all. And two, you damn sure wouldn't want these people to be in charge. Okay, they're white neo-Nazi white nationalists that are running amok through protests in the name, they're telling you why they're doing it. They said one race, one white European race. Okay, even today, I saw a clip of, and I'm gonna have to pull that up too, of Zelensky, the current fake president since the 8-year-ago coup, talking about how, there's European peoples over here, people with white skin and blue eyes and blonde hair that are being bombed every day. Why would he say that? Would any president go and explain the demographics of their people to a particular degree and talk about their being harmed so much that we need people to come and just negate everybody else that's over there? Fuck the brunettes, fuck the Middle Eastern people, fuck the Africans that's over there. And we seen that. They did fuck the Africans over there by basically going through and not allowing them to leave and this thing and the other thing. But either way, what you just saw was from 8 years ago. These were the people that started to storm around protesting, saying that they wanted to change the whole thing, one of the one nation people, this, that, and the third. So now let me pull up another clip here really quick now. Get out of that. Get out of that. Change this window here. Once I get this up all good and flowing, I'm telling y'all, man, I'm telling y'all, I'm gonna be a beast with this shit, okay? I'll put this over here. Maybe that's why I kept subconsciously changing the shift of the thing of the camera. I need to be like this. There we go. Why didn't y'all tell me? Okay? Anyways, let's play this clip.
Germany, Poland, and France. The Obama administration
Okay, they're throwing a lot at us, okay? They're throwing a lot at us. So let's take this one piece at a time. This is from 8 years ago also. And imagine, and you see the carnage, okay? You see the carnage, whichever way I need to point, okay? Let's look and see what they're talking about.
Poland and Germany, Poland, and France. The Obama administration stepped up pressure on the Ukrainian government Wednesday by
The Obama administration stepped up pressure on the Ukrainian government
announcing a visa ban on 20 members of the Ukrainian government.
by putting a visa ban on members of the Ukrainian government that was there at the time. Again, listen, there was already a government there doing their motherfucking thing, okay? And Obama steps in, and they've been trying to get them to join NATO and the European Union for a while. They meaning the Ukraine. The United States and Europe have been trying to get Ukraine to join their union and not deal with Russia, basically. That's the whole thing of it. They're like, look, we want to fuck with you. Or no, they like, look, you need to fuck with us, mob style, and you need to fuck with us, and we don't want you messing with Putin. That's basically what they're telling them, right? So, okay, cool. But Yanukovych, the president over there 8 years ago or so at the time, did not want to do that. Why? Because 20% or so of the population in the Ukraine is Russian. Also, right there on the border, on the east side of the Ukraine, is Russia. Not even that far from there is Moscow, to be honest with you, the capital of Russia where, you know, Putin and people be sitting, you know, so that's very, very close. And Ukraine used to be Russia's back 1920s and before. We ain't even gonna get into all that. But long story short, to take away from what she just said, there was a government in place, and Obama and his whack-ass administration stepped up pressure on Yanukovych and the government to join with Europe and them in order to just expand NATO and get their missiles and things closer and take over those military bases, most pretty much. And he didn't want to do it.
The U.S. is also threatening to place sanctions on the Ukrainian government.
Also threatening to put sanctions on them. We love that, right? You don't even know what a sanction is half the goddamn time. So, sanctions. They threaten to put sanctions on them. Threatening to where the kids and the people there can't get medicine. So that's going to cause some people and kids who could normally get medicine for certain ailments to die, basically, because they can't get it in time, maybe because of some delays or shortages. Cause shortages and delays in food because maybe they have become, Ukraine has maybe become dependent on certain imports from the United States. And so now when you take that away from them quickly, you now have to reevaluate and fix it fast. And that typically is going to cause delays and it's going to make everything look crazy, you know, but you throw sanctions on them or you're threatening it. in order to, again, get the Ukrainian people, current government with Viktor Yanukovych out of there.
The protests began in late November after President Yanukovych reversed his decision to sign a long-awaited trade deal with the European Union, or EU.
Yanukovych said, fuck y'all. I ain't signing it. They said, okay then. Sanctions there shall be.
To forge stronger ties with Russia instead. To talk more
And the way they throw it in there, to forge stronger ties with Russia instead. Oh, he's right there on his border. Wouldn't you want strong ties with Mexico and Canada? They right there. You know what I mean? Why would you want far ties from them? You could get a lot of trade going. Y'all people are going to be obviously going back and forth. Come on now.
about the latest in Ukraine, we're joined by Stephen Cohen, Professor Emeritus.
All right. Let's pull up another one real quick. Let's pull up another. So as you can tell, the purpose of that clip was to show you that it was a decision during the Obama administration days made to start a coup, basically. But that doesn't necessarily mean there's a coup. Y'all could just say, well, they just want them to be part of the European Union, you know, because NATO and, they just want to be stronger and, whatever the case may be. But maybe it's not all that. They're not like that far into it. Well, let's keep digging, okay? Let's dig, because that's what I do. I digs. Okay, I need to get my iPad set up so I can have like this multi-screen thing going. You know what I mean? Let's do this one. That's me. Y'all don't want to see me and me. We looking for... If I can find it. There it is. I'm gonna get better, y'all. I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna be a beast. Okay, let's play this.
In the streets every day. The number 50 is certainly too few. They're still finding bodies. Ukraine is splitting apart down the middle because Ukraine is not one country, contrary to what the American media, which speaks about the Ukraine and the Ukrainian people.
This is from 8 years ago, too.
Historically, ethnically, religiously, culturally, politically, economically, it's two countries. One half wants to stay close to Russia, the other wants to go west. We now have reliable reports that the anti-government forces in the streets, and there's some very nasty people among them, are seizing weapons in Western Ukrainian military bases.
What did he say?
Are seizing weapons in Western nasty people among them. Reliable reports that the anti-government forces in the streets.
Anti-government forces in the street. The anti-government forces in the streets would be those neo-Nazis, which were the protesters. Okay, and remember that, protesters. When I get on Vice, protesters. Anti-government forces in the street, neo-Nazis.
And there's some very nasty people among them, are seizing weapons in Western Ukrainian military bases.
They're taking weapons in Western Ukrainian military bases. Those people I just showed you in the streets beating up random ass people, random ass Russians, okay, are now seizing weapons at military bases.
So we have clearly the possibility of a civil war. And the longer term outcome may be, and I want to emphasize this because nobody in the United States seems to want to pay attention to it. The outcome
They don't never pay attention to shit.
may be the construction, the emergence of a new Cold War divide between West and East, not this time, as it was for our generation, in faraway Berlin, but right on the borders of Russia, right through the heart of Slavic civilization. And if that happens, if that's the new Cold War divide, it's permanent instability and permanent potential for real war. for decades to come. That's what's at stake. One last point. Also,
So basically what he's saying there is because they're taking those arms, so think about it. You got a 10% of extremist people, but they're not stupid, right? You might have about another 30, 40% of the people in that country, you know, I'm just guesstimating, that actually have the same values. Like, you know, you got some white folks that follow, they cool with the white supremacist KKK kind of ideals, but they ain't really gonna be out there protesting, doing all this. But, you know, they might back them here and there, you know, some of their ideas. It's kind of similar. You got some people in that country that are a particular voting body of people as well that might have some similar ideals. Well, these extremists will play on that, right? Not necessarily that they have the same ideas. Let me just take that back. They don't have the same ideas as the neo-Nazis, but they also, let's just say they both have conservative ideas. Let's just throw that out there. Let's say both of them have conservative ideas, okay? And then you turn around, those 10% extremists go out and do this crazy shit like taking over governments and shit like that. But then when you see them on TV, they're talking and they're lying because they're trying to rally the people. They're obviously crooks and nobodies that are doing this. So they turn around and lie. So they're like, oh man, we had to seize power. The current government has been, you know, corrupt. You know, they're this, they're that. They don't show a lot of proof of the corruption or whatever, but they just blame the current government of whatever the hell they want to blame them for. And then they come in there and then utilize that to rally the people behind them, so to speak, for their cause. And they're making them seem like they're out here fighting. It'd be like the Black Lives Matter. I keep using that because it was similar to something recently, you know. But the Black Lives Matter, you know, it's like they're out there. And they're fighting, they're whatever, you know, and they got a bunch of us black people somewhat behind them, like we cool with the Black Lives Matter, you know what I'm saying, nigga? Like, we get it, but at the same time, where y'all bread at? You know, what y'all do with that 90 mil? You know what I mean? Like, at the same time, what are y'all really doing? Are people getting arrested? During that time, people are getting arrested for protesting, but y'all wasn't bailing motherfuckers out. Y'all was just letting them go do whatever. So anyways, so back to the Ukraine situation. Those people rally behind them and they kind of think that it's for a good cause. They think that, oh man, we can actually change the political structure. So I'm gonna get behind these group of people who seem like they're out there protesting, don't really know that, you know, about the Molotov cocktail stuff and the beating up of Russians in the street stuff, but you know, well, fuck it. I'd rather see the government change. And that's what you kind of got going on. But then you got another group of people, some of the Russians and some Ukrainians that are kind of pro-Russians in a sense, that are like, man, we ain't trying to deal with all that, you know? So anyways.
Nobody in this country wants to talk about the Western authorities who bear some responsibility for what's happened and who therefore also have blood on their hands are taking no responsibility.
Western authorities, that's the United States and Europe.
They're uttering utterly banal statements which, because of their vacuous nature,
they utterly banal statements. So basically what he's saying is they just say certain things to propagandize y'all basically and to believe and back this particular kind of these decisions that they're making. So we'll get to some clips.
Are encouraging and rationalizing the people in Ukraine who are throwing Molotov cocktails, now have weapons, are shooting at police. We wouldn't permit that in any Western capital.
No, we wouldn't let them throw Molotov cocktails.
But it's being condoned by the European Union and Washington as events unfold. And when you say
All right, so that's pretty much, again, giving you more information about who's behind this, what's going on, who started it, why they started, what's the deal, okay? So let me play another clip here for you. Oh, look at me, getting a little bit better.
Canada-U.S. summit talking about Ukraine.
With regard to Ukraine,
Am I looking the right way? Y'all like this man. I'm the wrong way. Y'all like this man. This man right here. I'm gonna have a whole several amount of lives going in on this man right here. Okay? He will not get away with all this shit with his $500 million presidential library. And it's $260-something million in 1 year they took in on the Obama Foundation. Where did the money go? Anyways, let's just hear what he had to say about Ukraine 8 years ago at the time. What did I say? He said that they're saying certain kind of statements, benign kind of statements, propaganda-like statements about the country when they know for a fact there wasn't nothing going on until they decided to go in there and try to step in over the last 25 years and try to make Ukraine part of NATO.
Along with our European partners, we will continue to engage all sides, and we continue to stress to President Yanukovych and the Ukrainian government that they have the primary responsibility to prevent the kind of terrible violence that we've seen, to withdraw riot police.
Hold on.
To Ukraine, along with our European partners, we will continue to engage all sides.
We will continue to engage all sides. So imagine you watching this like, okay, y'all was like, man, maybe they cool. Maybe they ain't gonna come over here and fuck with us. Maybe they're not gonna back the rebels and the neo-Nazis. And then you watch TV, he's like, we will continue to engage on all sides. Okay.
And we continue to stress to President Yanukovych and
continue to stress to Yanukovych, the president 8 years ago at the time in Ukraine,
the Ukrainian government, that they have the primary responsibility to prevent the kind of terrible violence that we've seen, to withdraw riot police.
that they have the primary responsibility to prevent what happened. You can't stop a group of neo-Nazis or BLM or KKK or LGBT or whoever that wants to go out and protest. You can't stop them. They want to organize that shit and they go out, get out there and get to going. You can't stop them. You can try your best, as we can see, to contain them and to get them to disperse after a certain amount of time. But what you damn sure don't do is just pull your riot police away. What the fuck you mean? You engage, you back and help to encourage and arm those who engaged the neo-Nazis in these protests and in the takeover of the state capitol, throwing Molotov cocktails and other random primitive stupid shit. And then you tell that government, hey, don't hurt those protesters in the street, protesters in the street. You know, pull your riot police back. Why the fuck would I pull the riot police back?
To work with the opposition to restore security and human dignity and move the...
To work with the opposition to restore human dignity and random shit. Those you should pull your police back and work with the neo-Nazis.
Country forward. And this includes progress towards a multi-party technical government that can work with the international community on a support package and adopt reforms necessary for free and fair elections next year.
Basically, join the EU and try to do an election, just kind of throwing in democracy, kind of like, oh, you know, there should be another election. It should be free. And this is what we're encouraging because it seems like it's not free. It's free. It was free.
Ukrainians are a proud and resilient people who've overcome...
Neo-Nazis he's talking about are a proud and resilient people. He said neo-Nazis are a proud and resilient people.
Extraordinary challenges in their history, and that's a pride and strength that I hope they draw on now.
That's President Obama in Mexico, Professor Cohen.
You can't say he just got it wrong. You can't say he just got it wrong. Because when I'm done frying this mofo, okay? When I'm done frying him on my lives, it ain't gonna be no question that he was all completely coherent and and knew about every choice that he made during his Obama administration days. It ain't like some bad intel. It ain't some whatever. He knew. If we know, he knew. What else is next? Ooh. More of this dude. I got so many windows open up.
Obama in Mexico, Professor Cohen.
What are you asking me to comment
Your
on?
response to his
what
response.
he just said, shame. Shame. He is saying that the responsibility for restoring peace is on the Ukrainian government. Should withdraw its security forces from the streets. But let me ask you, if in Washington, people throwing Molotov cocktails, marching on Congress, and these people are headed for the Ukrainian Congress, if these people have barricaded entrance to the White House and are throwing rocks at the White House security guard, would President Obama withdraw his security forces?
Fuck no.
This is, and you know what this does? And let's escape partisanship here. I mean, lives are at stake. This incites these kinds of statements. It rationalizes what the killers in the streets are doing.
Yep.
It gives them Western license because he's not saying to the people in the streets, stop this, stop shooting policemen, stop attacking government buildings, sit down and talk. And the guy you had on just before, a so-called moderate leader, what did he just tell you? We have lost control of the situation. That's what I just told you. He just confirmed that. So what Obama needs to say is we deplore what the people in the streets are doing when they attack the police, the law enforcers, and we also don't like the people who are writing on buildings. Jews live here because these.
Okay.
This incites these kinds of statements that Obama made. It rationalizes what the killers in the streets are doing. It gives them Western license because he's not saying to the people in the streets, stop this, stop shooting policemen, stop attacking government buildings.
I mean, wouldn't that be the obvious thing? No one from anywhere really still was like pushing for BLM to keep fucking up buildings, except some of us that, you know, we was like, fucking niggas, do what you do, you know what I mean? But we still was like, you know, why y'all fucking up the ones on this side? But either way, to your core, you don't want people to go fucking shit up, you know. But you damn sure don't want people going and fucking up your capital. I mean, we saw that. It happened. And a lot of those people are being prosecuted. They did not stop. They're trying to figure it out. In the United States, who did that?
Down and talk. And the guy you had on just before, a so-called moderate leader, what did he just tell you? We have lost control of the situation. That's what I just told you. He just confirmed that. So what Obama needs to say is we deplore what the people in the streets are doing when they attack the police, the law enforcers, and we also don't like the people who are writing on buildings, Jews live here. Because these forces, these quasi-fascist forces. Let's address this issue, because the last time I was on your broadcast, you found some guy somewhere who said there was none of this there. All right, what percent are the quasi-fascists of the opposition? Let's say they're 5%. I think they're more, but let's give them the break, 5%. But we know from history that when the moderates lose control of the situation, they don't know what to do.
So this is a lot of stuff and words some people may not understand, but basically is what I told y'all. You know, the extremists are a small percent of the population, but and it could be more. But at the same time, they might have a lot of people backing them. But just kind of like he said, he was like moderates in office. It's kind of hard to trust them. What does he mean by moderate? Somebody riding the line on the fence, Democrat, Republican. You know what I mean? They can be manipulated, is what he means. Easily manipulated, especially through fear. You know what I mean? Especially through fear that's backed by big governments, okay? When they was threatening visas, banning visas of top officials and threatening sanctions, that's what he's talking about. And you know, if you're a moderate, a person riding the fence, you know what I mean? You're gonna end up likely being like, fuck that, man. I don't want people thinking I'm crazy. Got all these sanctions hitting the country, and they thinking that I'm the cause of it. You know, so they likely might go with the inside with the other side.
Moderates lose control of the situation. They don't know what to do. The country descends in chaos. 5% of a population that's tough, resolute, ruthless, armed, well-funded, and knows what it wants can make history. We've seen it.
What'd he say? 5%? 5%.
Population that's tough, resolute, ruthless, armed, well-funded, and knows what it wants can make history.
5% of a population that's ruthless, knows what it wants, ready to do anything, kill, whatever, take over buildings. And then when you back that through big superpowers, these motherfuckers is going in here knocking all kind of stuff off, taking everything over, okay? So let's move on to another clip, man. I'm gonna kind of move past the Stephen Cohen thing real quick. Let me see if I can get to a clip just to kind of switch it up. So this is Vice News. Let me pull it up for you. I'm getting good, okay? This is Vice News. In my early days of really deep diving, Vice News came across my radar with the documentaries. And I was kind of really like, wow, man, they're like really in there. They're really like shocking because they're right there on the front lines. And you see a whole lot of shit you probably shouldn't see, but you should need to see so you can see what's really going on, depending on the situation and the point of view it's coming from. Over the years, I have been suspecting things about Vice News. One of their biggest things that I watched was the North Korea documentary. They did about 2, maybe 3, because they got banned and then were able to go back over there, but maybe for a 3rd documentary with Dennis Rodman. But I think they were able to get 2 off before that. And they really made it look like a desolate country, all this other stuff. Really scares you, really make you think, what's going on over there? It's crazy. Even though when you really watch it objectively, when you really watch it for what's happening, and you compare it to other things you've seen in the world that's happened in other countries, it really wasn't as bad. But at the time, I was fully entrenched in that, plus many of their other documentaries, news reports. They got big since then. Since then, they done got on HBO. They got Viceland. They got their own channel. Tons of stuff. Millions of people watch them. It's crazy. But I'm gonna, again, just like the Obama shit, I'm gonna expose Vice News in one of my future live streams, many of them, is one of the biggest white nationalist propaganda newses of this decade, century. One of the biggest propaganda news outlets out there. Now, the reason why I say that versus CNN, your MSNBCs and things of that nature is because they're so good at making you think they're the alternative view, okay? They're really fucking good at it. So we're gonna watch this from also 8 years ago. You all now have a slight idea of the issues that happened during the Ukraine. So now let's see what Vice News had to say about it. Look at this dude. Looks like a straight, I ain't even gonna get into it, man. Let me just go ahead, let's hear.
All their forces.
Sorry if there's feedback from the video.
Because of this truce agreement that's been signed with the opposition and the government. So this is the front door to the Ukrainian parliament, the Rada, and instead of police out the front, we've got Euromaidan protesters. Inside the building, there's a session with the MPs.
Okay.
All their forces, because of this truce agreement that's been signed with the opposition and the government. So this is the front door to the Ukrainian parliament, the Rada.
This is the front door to the Ukrainian parliament. Instead of police at the front, they got Euromaidan protesters.
Got Euromaidan protesters.
What is a protester? What did I start this off with? Protesters, neo-Nazis. So let's see, what do you mean? So now that you know that there's a history of the Ukraine and the whole neo-Nazis and this and that and the US-backed coup, this and that, and I didn't show the leaked audio yet of the Obama administration phone call. Now that you know that, I'm going to show a clip. Now, I just showed you a slight clip from Vice News. And he's talking about being there at the time, and those are Euromaidan protesters. So basically, he is on the side. Right now, he's not fighting with, but he's telling a story, and it looks like he's on the side of the protesters. But let's keep watching.
Inside the building, there's a session with the MPs, and they're talking about putting through a law to impeach the president of this country.
Inside, look at those people looking like, anyways. Inside, there's people who sitting around the parliament, group of MPs that are looking to put through some laws in a parliament, in a government that they just overtook. We need to start going to the east of the country to unite it together. Who's aggressing? Who's being the aggressor? Okay. Right? Who's being the aggressor there? I think I got another one. Okay. Yep, wrong one.
Nobody was massive. I mean, it even looks kind of like a weird dictatorship theme park. Could you tell us where we are right now?
This is his private residence. So nobody.
This is Viktor Yanukovych's private residence. Nobody was allowed in.
Top secret place.
He is a guard. That guy
Top secret place.
is a guard for the people's self-defense. A neo-Nazi.
To go in. This was a top secret place.
How did you guys come to control Medjugorje?
When there were main battles on Maidan, Yanukovych just flee from Medjugorje.
Okay.
And the guard just flew away.
You could just walk straight in.
Exactly.
Got his own lift system. How many floors?
After a battle in Maidan, those Euromaidan protesters were able to just walk in because Yanukovych took the fuck off. After that whole thing, he had to flee. He actually ended up fleeing to the east part, very close to the border next to Russia. I think either Crimea or something. And basically to get away from them niggas in Kiev. Shit. Let's see what else I got. This one is like a lady. They're trying to like tell you like why they're doing this, why they took over Viktor Yanukovych, why they stormed the Capitol. One thing you see is, not that I'm racist at all, but as you can see, they said one race and all this other stuff. And just checking to see if anything was over there. And here you are, a lady that's inside the Yanukovych residence. She looks like she's blonde hair, blue-eyed, very pale skin. About to try to tell you why they did this and how corrupt Yanukovych was.
Now we are sitting with you here.
4 days after the revolution, an interim government was formed with the consent of the protesters.
Oh, no, that's what I wanted.
4 days after the revolution, an
4 days after the revolution, a protest where they took over the government, state capital in Kiev. Protesters, neo-Nazis. That's not a, now they just call it a revolution. See, if you just let them just say anything, and that's what they'll do, they'll throw it in there. 4 days after the revolution, the wholehearted, great revolution for our people. You know, it just literally just whatever. But look at this picture over here, wherever it's at. God damn it, I'm gonna get used to it. Look at it. The parliament is now seated with a lot of people, protesters, neo-Nazis, in suits. These motherfuckers went out there, fucked some shit up, Molotov cocktailed it up, beat up Russians, shot people, made Yanukovych flee, made the president flee, all this other stuff. And then these mofos go and put on suits and sit in the parliament. And they all got the same color suit, just to look like it used to probably look before. That, and then they start putting through laws. So think about this. You're on the Russia side and the pro-Russia, Ukraine alliance side. And all of a sudden they start throwing laws out there and they force the police that they control in certain areas, not all areas, to try to enforce those. You got a problem on your hands, especially if they start putting through some bullshit.
Government was formed with the consent of the protesters, composed of opposition MPs and major protest figures.
Composed of opposition MPs and major protest figures. Look at that motherfucker. He ain't supposed to be there. Look at him. Get your ass off that stage, man. What the? That's the Ukrainian government. This government here is the government they're telling you to pray for. The government they're telling you to back is right here, there. I hope y'all motherfuckers is getting this shit, man. I hope we getting it. Got something else here from Vice News for you. Whoops. Okay. Whoops.
The protesters' victory was barely a week old, but already the country and its new government were under threat.
The government was barely a few weeks old, but now they're under threat. Yeah, niggas, y'all just took the government over. Why wouldn't you be under threat? Like you just supposed to just, like they just supposed to just sit there. This is how you know Vice News is on the side of the white nationalist neo-Nazis.
Russia responded to the revolution by invading Ukraine's Crimea.
Russia responded by invading them. Russia came in to protect the side that wanted help, that ain't trying to be aggressors? Is that what you're saying? Is that an invasion? Or is that a humanitarian campaign? God damn it.
Clearly, the Ukrainian military was not able to stand up to the Russians.
Clearly, they're not able to stand up to the Russians. Clearly. They knew that shit.
So the government announced the creation of the National Guard to bolster the understrength military.
They announced the establishment of a National Guard. You start pulling people in to be your army. What if it's a draft? You think you gonna fight for these motherfuckers? Some of them will, because again, some of them are not really informed like most people. And so they will fall up under there. Yeah, there's some things I didn't show Also, that shows like, and it might show it, but you know, they started using some of the people who died in the protests when the cops were there, the riot police, to try to stop them. They started shooting back, and shooting them. They started shooting back. Then those people became martyrs, and then some people were jailed, and then they forced them to try to let one person out, and they let some person out, and then she became a big spokesperson, all this other stuff, man. So now it's a big mess.
The National Guard would stand as a reserve force drawn from Ukrainian civilians, many of them protesters who had fought on the Maidan.
Many of them protesters who fought on the Maidan. What are they saying? There are some people there, and most of them are the protesters that are now being part of the military. The people that I showed you in the beginning of the video are now part of the military.
We've managed to flag our way onto one of the buses heading to Novi Patisi, which is where the National Guard training area is. We're with the Lviska Sotnier.
He's on the bus with them. Fuck Vice News.
These guys from Western Ukraine, from Lviv. I'm hoping that they haven't mistaken me for a recruit, but I guess we'll find out when we get there.
Okay, man. Even if you don't follow this long live, I'm going to be clipping this up later into several clips. And let's pick it up, man. Let's keep moving through some of these clips, and then I'm going to wrap it up. Just because this was more of a test than a broadcast. Because I ain't got all my little extra shit on here.
Profoundly divided for centuries and certainly in recent decades. An ultimatum, an elected president, choose and divide your country further. So when we say today, Putin initiated this chaos, this danger of war, this confrontation, the answer is no. That narrative is wrong from the beginning. It was triggered by the European Union's unwise ultimatum. Now,
What he's saying, Putin wasn't the problem. 8 years ago, this is still 8 years ago. All this is 8 years ago. All this I found in the morning, utilizing some of those search phrases I told you earlier, watched a few things, and I knew what I knew.
flash forward to just 1 month ago, about the time I was with you before. Remember that the European foreign ministers, 3 of them, I think, went to Kiev and negotiated with Yanukovych, who was still the president, an agreement. Now, the Russians were present at the negotiation, but they didn't sign it. But they signed off on it. They said, okay, what did that agreement call for? Yanukovych would remain president until December. Not May, when elections are now scheduled, but December of this year. Then there would be a presidential election. He could run in them or not. Meanwhile, there would be a kind of government of national accord trying to pull the government together. And importantly, Russia would chip in trying to save the Ukrainian economy. But there would also be parliamentary elections. That made a lot of sense, and it lasted 6 hours. The next day, the street, which was now a mob, it was no longer peaceful protesters, as it had been in November. It now becomes something else, controlled by...
So basically what it's saying is that, you know, Putin tried. He tried to come up with some kind of agreement, you know, have another election, you know, we'll make sure it's fair, whatever, and then, you know, we can kind of deal with this, and we'll try to chip in and help with the economy and whatever. They didn't want that, okay? Radical ass motherfuckers don't want you to always come in and agree to certain things. Let's see. Let's look at another clip of your boy. Let's look at another clip of your boy. Whoops, hold up. Let's look at a clip of your boy.
A civil war there, and will you and Western leaders let him get away with that?
I think that what is absolutely clear is not only have Russians gone into Crimea and annexed it in illegal fashion, violating the sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Not only has Russia gone in and annexed, Russia came in and drew a line and said, fuck y'all. That's why we here. We came in and grew a line in a sovereign country.
Of Ukraine, but what they've also done is supported, at minimum, non-state militias.
Supported non-state militias. Maybe supporting people to go over there to help the Ukrainians, is what they're saying, to fight back at the protesters who had came upon military equipment and were backed by the United States, which they also give them arms.
In southern and eastern Ukraine, and we've seen some of the activity that's been taking place there.
The worst president of this country. And look, man, this clip, just a little random clip. This is even Malcolm tried to tell y'all ass about this. Now, he didn't know all the details, but he knew about the propaganda.
Love whom they will and hate whom they will. In World War II, this country could use its news media to propagandize and make the whole American public love the Germans and the Japanese, rather love the Russians and the Chinese and hate the Germans and the Japanese.
They use the media to propagandize you. What am I talking about? What's the name of this show? This channel? Unprop TV? To make you love the Russians and the Chinese and to hate the Germans and the Japanese.
And then
After the war, they changed it.
American public love the Germans and love the Japanese, hate the Russians and hate the Chinese, which shows that they can make the American public love whom they will and hate whom they will.
They can make you love who they want and hate who they want. Have y'all not found that out? Do you not see? Let's take a look at this last clip. I'm gonna pull in some a couple of quick things too while I do this.
Condemned Russia's invasion.
Putin is the aggressor. Putin chose this war, and now he and his country will bear the consequences.
During a speech at the White
I just wanted you to hear that the point of that was literally, he said, Putin chose this war. Putin is the aggressor. I just sat here and showed you several amounts of proof how Putin is not the aggressor, and I can show more. So knowing that, you now know that Biden is full-faced lying. He could have looked this shit up, even if he had advisors telling him other stuff. When he got away to his quarters, he could have did some YouTube research. You might say, why would I rely on YouTube research and not my generals? Come on, y'all. You don't think that they planned all this? We know that they planned it. And in fact, let me find the leaked audio tape. Let me find the leaked audio tape. Let me find it real quick for y'all.
The protesters
profoundly divided for centuries. But the point of it is that Putin didn't want.
That's if I send it to myself. If I didn't send it, we might make it for another episode. Oh, no. Here it is. Here it is.
What are you asking me? And you just played about a coup now.
Oh, or maybe not. Sorry, y'all. That's the one about the dirty Russian. He said they leaked this. I'm going to have to go in and, you know what? I can do this. So as of right now, man, I'm gonna move to the call-in potion. Turn the Zoom call off right now. Well, hold on. That's cool. Let me just try to adjust this real quick. Whatever. We'll bring the Zoom call in after. Feel free to call in. Okay, got my live call in banner going. Okay, I mean business. Let me go ahead and find this. I'm gonna find this leaked audio, Ukraine democracy now. Leaked audio tape. Right all. Okay, let me get to the tape. Okay. Right here. So I'm gonna pull in my browser real quick. Let me pull in my browser. Oops, sorry. That's kind of trippy. Sorry about that, browser. All right, so I'm having some issues there. Okay, trying to add in my browser for whatever reason. It's making my whole shit just pretty much crash. Let's do a window capture. Is that Safari I got up? Yes. Okay. Okay. Don't want you on that. Okay. Let me see all my shit. All right. So real quick. I'm going to play this and then I'm going to be done for the night. Okay. Unless anybody wants to chat in. Feel free. Okay. Give me your feedback. But this is going to be a leaked audio tape. Also, 8 years ago, I believe this video came out. 8 years ago. I can't find the date. But whatever. Oh, yeah, 2014. This is leaked audio from the Obama administration. This is a person from the Obama administration in the United States talking to a person in the Ukrainian government, but from the fake puppet government, those people I just showed you, the protesters, talking to one of those people, not the real Ukrainians, not the Russians, not the Ukrainians, not the United people, not the people not having a problem. This is somebody from Obama's cabinet talking to somebody, one of the neo-Nazis. Whoops.
And secondly, who do you think is going to come to power? Please tell us, and we're silent.
I want to go to the famous leak tape right now. The top State Department official has apologized to her European counterparts after she was caught cursing the European Union, the EU, in a leaked audio recording that was posted to YouTube. The recording captured an intercepted phone conversation between the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, Jeffrey Pyatt, and Victoria Nuland, the top U.S. diplomat for Europe. Nuland expresses frustration over Europe's response to the political crisis in Ukraine using frank terms.
So that would be great, I think, to help glue this thing and have the UN help glue it. And, you know, the EU.
While Assistant Secretary of State Victoria Nuland's comment about the EU dominated the news headlines because she used a curse, there were several other very interesting parts of her conversation with the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine.
Let me work on Klitschko, and if you can just keep, I think we want to try to get somebody with an international personality to come out here and help to midwife this thing. And then the other issue is some kind of outreach to Yanukovych, but we probably regroup on that tomorrow as we see how things start to fall into place.
So on that piece, Jeff, when I wrote the note, Sullivan's come back to me VFR saying you need Biden, and I said probably tomorrow for an attaboy and to get the deeds to stick. So Biden's willing.
That's the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, Pyatt, speaking with Victoria.
Okay. Let me pull up one other thing here real quick. If my shit don't crash. So you just heard a leaked phone call. The lady was from the Ukraine. Right? They talked about wanting to put a guy in office named Klitschko. Klitschko. Look at this post. Now, this video and this audio was from 8 years ago. Pyatt, which is the dude, he's like, so let me work on Klitschko, and if you can just couldn't understand what he said there. We want to try to get somebody with an international personality to come out here and help to midwife this thing. The other issue is going to be some outreach to Yanukovych, but probably regroup on that. And then she turns around and she says, over here, good. I don't think Klitsch should